A busy week at the NFL Combine for NFL Network host Rhett Lewis, but he is joining us for a couple of minutes to give us some perspective on what we have heard so far from General Manager Chris Ballard, head coach Frank Reich, and also where the talent is in this draft. Appreciate you taking the time, my friend.
Larra, always a play. Anything for a fellow Hoosier.
That's
I mean,
exactly
come on.
right.
I mean, I was just talking, I got to spend some time down at Bloomington this week. This is the timing, and this is why I love the Combine and why I love it in Indianapolis is because, I get to go down to Bloomington, I get to see great people and great Hoosiers like yourself, and obviously scout some of the best talent out here that's making their way to the NFL. So it's all.
After not being able to do this for 2 years, finally being back after we had 2021 where we didn't have any of this on-site activity, what are you enjoying the most being back here? How beneficial?
Being around people and getting to have face-to-face conversations with coaches and scouts and evaluators and even prospects is just something we haven't done for almost 2 years now. And I was just talking to my buddies Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero for our NFL Inside Report podcast, and they were like, we forgot just how valuable this week is to cultivate relationships, to build connections, to put faces with names. And so I love that aspect of it. I love that business gets done in the great establishments in and around downtown Indianapolis. And so there's nothing not to like about the Combine being here.
All right, you named your draft insiders.
Yes.
And the Colts currently do not have a first-round pick in this draft. Plenty of time, though, for things to happen leading up to late April. But the second round of the NFL draft has been pretty kind to the Indianapolis Colts. They have had success just last year with Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. Previous years, you had Darius Leonard and Braden Smith, guys you were able to get at those positions. Where is this draft particularly deep at certain positions where you can get that type of perceived first-round talent, but within that second round in proximity to where the Colts are currently selecting?
Well, Larra, that's a great question, but the biggest piece of that whole scenario here is basically what the Colts are telling us is that next year they're going to be Super Bowl champions because the Rams haven't had a first-round pick in 10 years, and maybe won't have another one for another 10 years, and they have made the most of their second and third-round picks. And so, when you bring up all those guys that Chris Ballard has hit on in the last few years in the second round, you might say that the Rams and the Colts have nailed it on day 2 of the draft, probably as much as any teams in football. So I think the Colts are in great hands even without the first round pick. But to your question about where the value lies in those picks, wide receiver, I think, is going to be a big piece of this conversation for the Colts in the second round. I think there are going to be guys worthy of that pick, wherever it is, in the middle of the second round for Indianapolis. I look at guys like Kyle Phillips, wide receiver from UCLA. Unguardable at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He was fantastic. He's kind of a slot guy, which I feel like the Colts could probably use a little bit of. And depending on what happens with Paris Campbell, I know they've got some deep threat ability there, but there are other guys that can absolutely fly that could be in that range. Josh Johnson of Tulsa, maybe not that high in the second round, but a guy with elite quickness. And Samori Toure further down the road from Nebraska, a guy, Big Ten fans here in the Indianapolis area should be familiar with. There's a ton of wide receivers that are going to be available for Chris Ballard. I think cornerback is another place that they're going to find some real value there in the second round. I think some of my favorite guys are probably going to be off in the first. Sauce Gardner, for my money, is the first one off the board. I really like Kyler Gordon, corner from Washington, really aggressive guy that to me would fit what the Colts do. So I think there's some real options there. And then look, here's the thing that people, Larra, forget. The Colts are they have a good offensive line. They're set there. No. Always build on your strengths. And I think this is a great opportunity to do that as well on day 2 for Indy.
And we know that Chris Ballard emphasizes the trenches. He has said that year in and year out. And we heard Coach Reich discuss the playmakers that they do have, prioritizing guys like Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, and Nyheim Hines in terms of building and structuring this offense. What did you learn this week in hearing both from Coach Reich and Chris on Carson Wentz, on the future of Carson Wentz, anything that tips you where you think one way or another this could be where they are leaning at this point? Because he said, Chris Ballard did, those conversations are ongoing.
They're ongoing, and I think we learned a little bit about where the Colts are in that process. I think they like Carson Wentz, but I think they need to figure out whether they love him and whether they see him as a quarterback where the confetti is going to be coming down on him at the end of a season with the Indianapolis Colts sitting as Super Bowl champions. So I'll go back to what we were just talking about. Draw the Rams comparison again. They were in this situation with Jared Goff. Do they like him? Yeah. Did they love him enough to, continue to roll, down that path with him? No. They found a way to go get somebody better and somebody who they thought could bring them a Super Bowl. And they nailed it with Matthew Stafford. Now, I don't know that there are that many Matthew Staffords available out there, for the Colts, who are going to have to spend resources that they may or may not have to go get, a Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, guys who increasingly seem like they're going to stay with their teams. So I think this is another situation where maybe the second round is a quarterback, for the Colts. If Carson Wentz, if that situation has resolved itself ahead of April 28th when we get to Las Vegas, and there are definitely some quarterbacks with value in the second round. Look at Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati, just 2 hours down the road here. Look at a guy like Sam Howell out of UNC that might be interesting, to the Colts. So there are options, but I think what I took out of what Frank Reich and Chris Ballard said is, they like a lot of what Carson Wentz did, but like most of us, wanted to see a better performance in big-time games and big-time situations when the Colts had to have it. Didn't get that. Maybe they can find it next year.
How difficult is the quarterback picture currently in making those moves for a veteran guy, given that you have organizations like Pittsburgh with a retiring quarterback, Tampa Bay with a retiring quarterback? It seems like that there are many quarterback-needy teams and not a ton of plentiful quarterback talent that's coming available.
Well, let's think of this. The Denver Broncos at 9. In the quarterback market in the draft, perhaps the Washington Commanders at 11, the New Orleans Saints at 18, the Steelers at 20. And, we're kind of talking about maybe 3 quarterbacks in the first round as being that sweet spot. So maybe we get 4 with Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis. Is Matt Corral the third one? Is Sam Howell off the board as a fourth one? Desmond Ridder, the guys we were just talking about. So that part kind of gets really intriguing. And it's really just, it's hard to project where these teams are going to go in the draft because we don't know how active they're going to be to try to pursue some of these trades and how difficult those are going to be to pull off.
All right, you mentioned later in the week you're going to be putting your scout cap on.
Yeah.
What is your favorite event? We're right in front of the bench press right now.
It's not that one.
But not that one.
Nope.
What's your favorite event to watch? See these guys put to the test.
Bar none, it's the Gauntlet. And we'll see it on Thursday night live on NFL Network. It is the Gauntlet for the wide receivers where, we start here, catch a pass here, flip here, and then we're going straight down in the middle of the field. We're catching left passes from quarterbacks here, every 5 to 10 yards. I love that drill. I would do it in my backyard if I had 10 spare quarterbacks to throw it to me. So that's what I miss about playing football is little things like that. And that event is by far my favorite. Must see TV.
You can see that former college wide receiver talent right there. Wait, isn't that what Cooper Kupp's dad did?
Yes.
In the backyard,
No,
built,
sure.
replicated
For
all
sure.
of that?
And when Cooper was with me down at the Manning Passing Academy, it's where I first got to know him while he was at Eastern Washington down in Thibodaux, Louisiana, every summer. And so we were down there for a couple of years, and we would actually set up the Gauntlet for these high school kids to run, which it's awesome. And it's now head on a swivel, Larra, because that ball will sting if you're not turning quick enough. That ball come right in your face.
Sounds like that comes from experience.
I don't know. It's just experience watching, not experience getting that in my face, thankfully.
Rhett, appreciate the time. We'll put you through the gauntlet a little bit later. We'll see how everyone responds when put to the test here at the 2022 NFL Combine. Appreciate the time, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks.